new faces and new places. It's all in store for you on the January City Matters segment, where we'll meet 2 new city employees and learn about the new community field house. Now, we all know work comes before play, so that is why we're starting this segment off with a member of the Public Works team, and then later on in the show, we'll be visiting with the individual responsible for coordinating all the recreational play taking place at the community field house. We welcome Scott Grippenstraw to the GITV studio as a first-time guest. Scott is a project manager for the Public Works Department. Although he has been on the job for just a few short months here at the City of Grand Island, the list of projects he is involved in is a long one. But before we get to talking about what Scott is involved in here at the City of Grand Island on a daily basis, I want to visit with him just a little bit about his background and maybe some of his interests. So we're glad to have you here, Scott.
Thank you, Wendy.
Well, I first want to ask you just a little bit about your professional background or maybe your family, just some things you might want the viewers to know.
Well, I'd like to talk about my personal background first. I am from Central City. My wife, Sandy, and I have lived there for about 20 years, and we're more of a small town people, but Grand Island, we have frequently come here for about all of our activities. My wife, she works for Preferred Popcorn. She manages international projects, or international contracts, and also has her own home quilting business. We have a son who's married and lives in Maxwell, Nebraska, works at the Maranatha Bible Camp there, and we are new grandparents.
Oh, so that's exciting for you, huh?
Yes, my son and his wife, just this last May.
Okay.
And I also have a daughter. She is a senior at Nebraska Christian. And so yeah, there's a lot of activities going on in our life right now. I also, one of the other things that I really enjoy personally is I am a high school wrestling assistant coach at Nebraska Christian, and that's something I really enjoy, that sport, really enjoy seeing kids develop in character and in athletic ability, so very rewarding.
You're going to have some busy weekends ahead, huh?
Every Saturday is locked up here for a couple months at least. So,
Scott, can you tell me a little bit about what your professional background is? Where have you worked before the city?
Yes, I actually come from the Nebraska Department of Roads, had a 22-year career there, was a project manager, and was responsible for a lot of projects around the Grand Island area. In 1999 and 2000, I was in charge of the reconstruction of the I-80-281 interchange south of Grand Island, and a lot of other projects too, but most recently completed the Grant Street to Greenwich Street project on West 2nd Street. And that was another 2-year project. Done a lot of other projects around the area too, including 281 up to St. Paul and Highway 30 from the Burlington Northern Railroad overpass all the way to the Merritt County line.
Well, working at any place for over 20 years is a long time. I'm just curious, what kept you there? What did you like so much about it?
Well, I like the challenges of the construction projects. There was always something new to be dealing with, and but I some of the things that I really enjoyed looking back at my career there was working with the public and getting to know people, and it was very challenging when you go to residents and business owners and you're telling them that we're in there to redo the road, and when we're done it'll look great, but in the meantime there's going to be a lot of grief that we have to put you through. And I enjoyed that challenge, and found that a lot of people from the community, they have a lot more patience than I would have in the type of projects that we've been working with. I also enjoyed working with the media and going on to TV interviews and working with the newspaper and keeping them updated. And that was, again, another challenge, but very rewarding, because I did get a lot of feedback that the public appreciated my effort in keeping them updating and being honest with them about the progress of projects and the challenges that were going to be coming ahead. Another aspect of that, working around the Grand Island area, that I enjoyed as from the Department of Roads point of view, was working with the city employees from all different departments, including the police, the engineering, utilities, the emergency management. A lot of the coordination that we had to do in doing projects around the area took a lot of developing those relationships with the city personnel. And in each, every time I worked with somebody from the city, I appreciated their professionalism and willingness to help me out in completing the projects in a timely basis. So there's just a lot of really great rewards from working with the Department of Roads.
So what was the decision of why you maybe wanted to try a different job?
Well, at the Department of Roads here at Grand Island, I basically worked on one phase of a construction project, and that was the construction phase, which the public, that was the one that the public typically sees. There's a lot more behind a project than going out there and starting to tear up your streets and returning them to something you can drive on. There are many phases from initiation through environmental clearance, design, acquisition of right-of-way, relocation of utilities. A lot of those things, I was involved with them on a periphery type of just on the outside, mainly as those things were occurring on these projects I worked in Grand Island. But here, I decided to come to the city because there was an opportunity for me to be more on the administrative level of these projects, where I'd be involved with the project initiation, all those phases leading up to the actual construction, and involved with the construction and the final closeout. And so now at the City of Grand Island, I am a project manager here for the city, but the scale or the spectrum of responsibilities I will now have are much wider. And that was something that I figured would be a great challenge to be involved in, and I'm really glad that the city had offered me this opportunity.
So has the transition from your state job to the city job, how is that going? Has it been tough?
It's been tough. I have a lot of challenges, a lot of new things to learn. With construction projects, again, the phase of construction, the public sees, that is actually a very short phase of the entire, scheme of things that has to occur for us to be able to reconstruct a highway or do anything else. And my background in the Department of Roads is more related to transportation projects, roads, but now at the city, there's a lot of other projects I'm being involved in, and just thinking of a list right now, I'm involved with the sanitary sewer project, I'm involved with the hike-bike trail, a railroad quiet zone improvement project, a drainage project, a safe routes to school project, and also a downtown historical lighting project. All these things, and they're all at different phases on these projects, and yeah, it's very challenging.
It's going to be a lot of variety for you, it sounds like.
That's exactly right. Now, I guess if I just made that decision to leave the Department of Roads to enter into something that's more challenging, and the city's providing that for me.
Okay, good. Well, let's talk about some of your responsibilities that you have here for the City of Grand Island. I know you're going to be greatly involved in the federal aid transportation projects. Now, for those of us out there that does not understand what that means, can you give us some examples of what kind of projects that would involve?
Well, for instance, the Safe Routes to School project that is funded through the Nebraska Department of Roads, Safe Routes Nebraska, or Safe Routes Nebraska. I think that's the name of the program. It involves federal funds. The Hike Bike Trail project, that is the connector trail from State Street to Capitol Avenue, that involves transportation enhancement funds, which again are federal funds that they come through the Department of Roads, and they are paying an 80% share of that. There's other projects that are coming down the line that will require federal funds to be involved, and they are projects that are a long ways out from being done. But the aspect, my responsibilities in that.
What's your role in all that?
Well, I am a responsible charge. I'm certified as a responsible charge, which is the acronym is RC.
Okay.
And in that role, I have decision-making authority to assure that the project that has federal funds involved is in compliance with all the Department of Roads guidelines for federal aid projects and all applicable state and federal rules and regulations. It's a big responsibility. There's a lot that the federal requirement requires to make sure that there's oversight on, and that there is documentation and assurance that all the phases of the projects are things are occurring that are going to be in compliance with those regulations.
So now my next question is, did you have to have any certain training or certifications to be responsible charge?
Yes, I had to do a host of online courses prerequisites that it required me to pass. That they involved different things like what is a federal aid project, what's all involved with that, the National Environmental Policy Act and environmental regulations, the Uniform Act, which goes with the acquisition of right-of-way for public projects, several other things. Had to do all that online training, and then I also had to attend a 2-week course, actually going through the course to receive that certification.
And have you done all that just since you started here at the city?
I did that just prior before starting with the City of Grand Island.
That's what I was wondering. Now, why is it so? I guess why is it so important that the city would have someone in a position like that, responsible charge?
Well, it's actually required.
Okay.
It is required that the city has a full-time person on staff that is certified as an RC to have that authority and responsibility over those federal aid projects.
Okay, and I know you're also certified as a temporary traffic control supervisor. Now, what does that mean? What's that certification mean?
Well, in your work zone traffic control, reality is that it's a lot more complex than people appreciate, and the American Traffic Safety Services Association, they provided temporary traffic control training, and I took advantage of that and am certified as a traffic control supervisor, which means I have training and experience in putting together plans for temporary traffic control, and also making sure that all the items are in compliance with another federal book called the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which gives a pretty good guidance on what temporary traffic control should look like.
So how is that certification going to help you in your role as project manager here? Well,
already I've been involved with some stuff with the city, including helping develop some temporary traffic control plans for some projects that we have coming up this summer, and also putting together a detour plan. But I've also been working with the Public Works Director in putting together some code that we might have for requiring anybody occupying public right-of-way to have their traffic control in compliance with that Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. We're looking at our specifications to make sure our contracts are requiring clearly that our contractors do a good job in being in compliance with those requirements, and also helping with utilities and streets divisions and setting up their traffic control too.
I was going to say, traffic control seems to always be a topic here at the City of Grand Island, so I think you'll use that expertise quite a bit. Now, I wanted to spend the last part of our time together to talk with you just a little bit. I know you had a long list of projects that you mentioned, and I wanted to talk a little bit in detail about those and maybe what your role is and the timelines and things like that. So the first one I had down on the list was lift station number 7. What's your role as project manager with that, and can you give us any updates?
Well, I just have to say first that our Public Works Engineering Division staff, they're the ones leading on that project.
Okay.
Paul Schwader is doing the design on that and moving that forward. The details on the project are that in southwest Grand Island, mainly about the area from, I think it's John Street to Stolly Park Road, and I think it's Ada Street to Harrison. That area had a lot of problems with flooding in 2008 that caused some sanitary sewer backups. Well, this project is to improve that situation, or reduce that likelihood of backing up to occur. And we received funding from the Department of Economic Development disaster recovery funds, and we're putting it towards this project. The things we'll be doing will be upgrading the lift station that's on South Blaine near the Beltline Trail. We'll also be installing a 8-inch force main to push all that wastewater away from the area, 3,500 feet long force main that will take the wastewater to a 24-inch collector on the west side of St. Joe railroad spur there. We'll also be doing some reconstruction or repair of some of the damaged sanitary sewer line in 3 locations. Specifically, one of those locations is in an alley where it's got a very tight utility easement, And what I like that's interesting about this job is typically what you do is go in there, and if you have some sanitary sewer, it's in this situation it's opened up. There's some cracks, some damage in it. There's root penetration. There's a lot of infiltration of groundwater into it. So you have a lot of groundwater coming into that sanitary sewer in that location. And typically what you do is go in there and dig it out and replace that.
Okay.
With that sanitary sewer is, I think, 9 to 12 feet deep, and to dig that out with the groundwater issues and the sand, we'd create quite a mess there with the excavation. We're looking at using some trenchless technology there, where we'll be actually not having to do excavation work, but instead what we'll do is do a thing called cure-in-place pipe, where we'll pull through the line a resin-saturated felt tube that's flexible, pull it in there, and expand it with heat or hot water into the place of the existing 8-inch sanitary sewer. And in about 4 hours, through the heat and the pressure, that tube will form in place and be solid, and what you end up with is a continuous, jointless, seamless pipe within a pipe. And probably be able to do that at a portion of the cost of what it would take to actually dig all that up. And I don't know if I'm making it sound very technical or whatever, but it's a process. There's a lot of people familiar with it, and we decided at this location, instead of having to relocate fence and move dog pens and little sheds around that are in people's backyards and relocate poles and other utilities, this was a better alternative. And I think in the end it's going to be a lot cheaper. But yeah, we're still putting the specs together, and fortunately we do have contractors around the area that can do that type of work.
So, well, it sounds like it's going to be a great benefit to those citizens in that area.
Absolutely, so. Absolutely.
Now, I also had the trail. It's going to be from State Street to Capitol Avenue. What's your role in that?
Well, again, this is another project that involves federal funds, and it's transportation enhancement funding that we acquired through the Department of Roads, which they will match the city's portion of it. The federal funding is 80%, the city's match is 20%. And this project starts about a half mile, on State Street, about a half mile west of 281, and the trail will be going along the Morse Creek Drainway, just on the west side of it, within existing city right-of-way. It'll go north for a half a mile and connect in on the west end of the trail that's already been that was recently constructed under the Capitol Avenue widening project.
So that sounds like you're busy with that one too, huh?
Busy, yes.
Now, this is one that a lot of us have heard about through the years. It's the Railroad Quiet Zone Improvement Projects that's going on. Where are we at with that, and what's the latest?
Well, one thing I know that's been a lot of public interest in the last couple of years, and one thing that I see that maybe wasn't recognized by the people at the initiation of this project was there is a lot of coordination that has to occur with the railroad, and that really does take a lot of effort and time. You know, the project, what is planned here is to actually quiet the crossings at Pine Street and Oak Street, which there will be no horns sounded, and none of the, I think people are familiar with wayside horns, which are those much quieter horns that are directed towards traffic. Pine and Oak won't even require those. What they'll have to do is do some narrowing of the street and install a median on the approaches coming up to the railroad crossing. At Elm and Walnut, those will require the wayside horns to meet the Federal Railroad Administration requirements.
Okay.
And it's just a coordination with the railroad. It's another part of it is the development of the plans. That did take time, a lot of coordination with the railroad and trying to meet their regulations, which at the time this project started, there was some evolution occurring there. So, and that's where this project is at now. We are waiting on a review, from the Union Pacific Railroad, which even once we get that review back, there's still a lot of coordination effort that's going to have to take, because the railroad will have to, in addition to us installing those horns, they have to construct an interface on their tracks that works with those new wayside horns. So
we're
patience.
still working on it, yeah.
That's right. That's
but
right.
making some progress, it sounds like.
Yes.
How about the Wasmer detention cell? Can you just briefly tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, the Wasmer detention cell. That cell was, put in place as a place for drainage that comes off the 2nd Street widening project, and how that project. The plan is to construct new storm sewer off of the 2nd Street storm sewer and connect down to the Wasmer cell through 3 trunk line connections that would be at Logan, at Broadwell, and at Madison. And that is a project that, as I talked about, it does have federal funds involved. And as I talked about earlier, a lot of coordination, a lot of effort of working with the Department of Roads and the Federal Highway Administration to make sure that all the documents, all the environmental, all that stuff is being taken care of. And that project has been kind of held up along with that process. But we're doing some progress on that and trying to work with the Federal Highway Administration to determine what portion of this project that they will participate in, because the entire project is not eligible for federal funding because it does involve taking some water from other areas other than Highway 30 that the Federal Highway says was not eligible for a project like this.
Well, I think it's important that our citizens understand, it sounds like, that a lot of the projects you guys are working on is just not the city. We are trying to coordinate, and there's got to be a lot of other parties involved that sometimes takes some time.
Yes, and I have to say that environmental clearance part, which is the NEPA phase of a project. NEPA stands for National Environmental Policy Act of 1969. And what that is, it's a law that requires federal agencies to consider environmental issues in their actions. And compliance with the NEPA entails implementing a systematic and interdisciplinary method for making sure that all possible environmental impacts are addressed in a project. And since we receive federal funds for a project that's considered a federal action, we got to make sure that we meet all those requirements that go with the National Environmental Policy Act. And according to the Department of Roads guidelines for federal aid projects, there's 61 acts, regulations, and executive orders that have to be reviewed by the regulatory agencies on a project and approved before they can move forward. And that process on a federal aid job, even on a simple one, can take 6 months to a year. On a very complex job, say for example a widening of Capitol Avenue, that can take probably up to 2 years. And that's the way it is. This is a transition that kind of occurred over the last 5-6 years. So a lot of local agencies, other cities and counties, they are still on a learning curve with a lot of this stuff. Which, in terms with the city though, we are, I think, on our transportation projects eligible for $1.488 million a year, but. Yes, they come with strings. They come with a match,
along with that, then.
and all that stuff that goes with it. So we're going to do the best we can to make sure we take advantage of those federal dollars, but it is very challenging, and that's my job.
You've got a big job, it sounds like. I wanted to wrap up with one final project, because it's one I've heard about for quite a while too. Excuse me. And that's the Walk to Walnut project. So can you tell me a little bit about what's going on with that?
Yes, that again is another project that involves federal dollars. It's through the Safe Routes to Schools program. And where we are at now is that we are in the environmental clearance phase, the NEPA phase, and there are some issues we still have to satisfy the Department of Roads with a wetlands determination. And that means, to assess how much of the wetlands that we're impacting, and if we're mitigating that properly, or if it's possible to avoid that. There's also some issues with conversion of some recreational area there, where there's some park equipment. That will be where the future driveway to the school, which will line up with 15th Avenue. That'll go. So it's impacting that. And yes, we got to satisfy the Department of Roads and the Federal Highway Administration and all the regulatory agencies, and oversight of those issues before we can proceed. We still have to acquire some easement to do this work, which that once we get to that phase should be simple. Before we can move on to the construction part of it.
So even what may appear to be a simple project, I guess, I wanted to inform citizens that it's actually very complicated, it sounds like.
It can be, and unfortunately, as I've seen things play out here, that these types of projects, everybody's on a learning curve with them. I'm sure the city, has been on one, and I am on one. And even working with the Department of Roads and the agencies that have oversight on this, the rules are still kind of evolving. And just got off the phone this morning with an environmental specialist for the Department of Roads, and for the first time in a long time, I actually heard there's a possibility for streamlining this wetland determination process. I hope this project qualifies for that, so I can kind of get it moving forward. Otherwise, we may have to hire a wetlands biologist to go out there and tell us what is wetlands and what's not, and put it on the plans and satisfy the Department of Environmental Quality.
Well, we appreciate you joining us today in the GITV studio, and I hope you enjoyed your time the first time down here. You did a great job, and I couldn't tell that you'd only been on the job for a few months. You're very knowledgeable in a lot of areas.
Thank you.
I know after hearing that segment, I'm worn out with all the projects that you have to do, so good luck with all of them, Scott.
Okay, thank you, Wendy.
Thank you. During the next part of our City Matters segment, we'll be kicking around the topic of football, soccer, and other indoor recreational sports. Not only is our next guest new to the city of Grand Island, but he is also in charge of an exciting new city facility, the Community Fieldhouse. I want to extend another big first-time welcome to Jeremy Bachman, who's the recreation coordinator out to the Community Fieldhouse, and for coming down and joining us in the studio today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, Jeremy, I've had the opportunity to work with you on a lot of different projects regarding the field house, especially the grand opening, and I know you're super busy, so I appreciate you taking the time to come down to visit with us today a little bit.
Yeah, no problem, anytime.
Well, I first wanted to start off and find out just a little bit about your background and maybe some of your interests and what brought you to Grand Island.
Yeah, I'm originally from Omaha, Nebraska. Of course, Omaha, everyone knows that. But I went to Northwest Missouri State down in Maryville, Missouri, got my bachelor's in Parks and Recreation Management. I then went back to Omaha, worked for the Omaha Parks and Recreation for a few years, and then decided to come back out here.
So how has the adjustment from Grand Island and Omaha, how has that been for you?
It's a little more relaxed. I have a lot more time to myself now with just being the fact that I don't have to travel half an hour across town is a great part. So.
And what were some of the things that you did there at Omaha? Were you involved with a lot of the sporting things, or?
Yep, I was mainly involved in a recreation center in central Omaha. It's in the Dundee area, if you know Omaha very well.
Okay.
I did a lot of their basketball leagues, programs, and I was very involved in their Sundogs program, which is a summer youth program. It's an all-day program where kids it's free for kids, and they can come in. We had activities and things for them to do.
So that's probably helped you, that experience with what's going on here at the Grand Island, huh?
Yes, yes, very much.
Okay, well, we might have some viewers out there that have heard about the field house but haven't ever made a trip out to the location. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew where it's at, so let us know where it's at and maybe your hours of operation.
Sure, sure. If you did go to the State Fair, you will know it as the 4-H Exhibits Building.
Okay.
It's the furthest north building on the State Fair grounds.
Now, what months are you open for operation, the field house?
Right now, we're planning to be open October 1st through the end of April. But if need calls for it, we can stay open longer.
And why are, for those of the residents out there that may not understand, why aren't you open year-round?
Year-round, we just don't think we'll have the demand for it. Once it gets nice out, a lot of the people that will use the turf field, basketball courts, will move outside. Naturally, everyone would rather be outside than indoors.
And then a couple of those months, are they getting ready? They need the building for the fair to get ready, is that right?
Yes, that's another thing. We have to move everything out. So if you have been in there, or if you do come in there one time, you'll see how much equipment we have. Everything that you see has to be moved out. So it'll take a while to do that.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about all the things that are taking place in there. And it's pretty amazing that when you think about, you see everything and you think, man, you're going to have to load everything up and then put it back out.
Yeah.
It's going to be a job. But it's exciting that we have a great facility like that. Let's talk about some of the different sporting venues that can take place out there that the Fieldhouse has, because I know there's so many different ones. I first wanted to ask you about the indoor soccer. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
The indoor soccer field, it's actually a hybrid turf between field turf and AstroTurf.
Okay.
You'll see the field turf at, I think, Grand Island High School has it. It has the rubber granulars in it, more comfortable to run on. We couldn't have the rubber granulars just because we had to move it. So we do have a padding underneath it, and it's fairly comfortable. It's going to be, I think the dimensions are 66 yards by 30 yards. So it's one of the largest in Nebraska indoors.
And you think that will be one of the most popular venues for the indoor time?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's been so far. We've had a number of rentals. Ever since we started, we opened it up for rentals. We've had rentals nearly every day.
So can that turf also be used for football or baseball or other things?
Sure
or what?
can be,
Let's
yep.
talk about that.
We've had interest from the softball and baseball associations around Grand Island, not only in Grand Island, but the seas surrounding it.
Okay.
So they can use the batting cages or the turf field, and a lot of them want to use the turf field for throwing, catching, pitching, things like that. Also, we're going to have a flag football league indoors too.
Well, that'll be fun.
So it's something for them to do during the months that they can't be outside.
And with the batting cages that you mentioned, how many of those do you have, or what's the capabilities of those?
We have 3 of those.
Okay.
3 batting cages. 2 are softballs and 1 is baseball. Right now we have varying speeds, so they can be changed.
Okay, that's something I wondered if the speed could be changed.
Yep.
And then how about basketball and volleyball? I know we're still waiting on the floor. Maybe talk to us a little bit about where we're at with that and just those disciplines.
Well, I don't want to go too much into it because it's kind of technical, but the humidity in the floor is too high to pour our surface. So we have to wait for that for a few more months, but hopefully this summer we will have it poured and ready to go next year. It's going to be a synthetic rubberized surface, good for both volleyball and basketball.
And it sounds like you guys have some neat equipment there too, at the volleyball. Can you talk about that?
Sure. All of our volleyball equipment is the most up-to-date equipment you can get. The Nebraska volleyball team uses kind of the same equipment we do.
Good.
And then we do have 4 adjustable basketball hoops also that can be dropped down and raised.
So will you be able to have basketball going on at the same time as volleyball, or
Yep, sure
how,
thing.
how's that going to work? Or what?
We do have capability of 4 volleyball courts and 2
wow.
basketball courts.
Okay, so
Of course, they can't be going on at the same time. So we have capability of doing 1 full basketball game and then 2 full volleyball games at once.
So it sounds like there's lots of different ways you can work everything in, huh?
Yep. It'll be tough, but yeah, we can definitely manage it.
And another thing I wanted to bring up, besides all those different sporting things out there, when I was out there, I saw you had the playground equipment. Can you talk to us a little bit about why there's a playground out there and what it entails?
Yeah, we kind of the idea behind that was what are the little kids going to do during the winter months when they have to stay inside, and you don't really burn off much energy when you stay inside all day. So we decided to put something out there where the mothers or fathers can bring their kids during the day, the toddlers that aren't in school yet, play on the equipment. And then also we're thinking about, when the older brothers and sisters are practicing, what are the younger brothers and sisters going to do?
Yeah.
They can go jump on that equipment and play the whole time instead of sitting there with their parents and watching their older brother or sister. So,
What kind of equipment is out there, Jeremy, for the playground?
we have a kind of a crazy farmhouse out there, a toddler tree, and then a piece of equipment it's kind of climb-on piece of equipment with 2 slides and a couple other gadgets on there too. And we don't have it yet, but we're going to get it's a firehouse climb-on piece of equipment where you can go inside, kind of crawl around and things like that. So it should be pretty entertaining for them.
So something for boys and girls of all ages out there for the little kids, huh?
Yep.
And one neat safety factor that would be good to mention is the flooring.
Yes, we have
talk
a fall-safe flooring. It's a rubberized surface. It's made from recycled tires, which can be moved, picked up, and put back down. So
So it's good they aren't falling down when they're playing on the hard
Exactly.
cement. You
Yep,
got
they're
some
not going to
nice,
be falling down the cement.
Yeah. Well, I know you guys have already hosted some teams out there and practices
Mm-hmm.
and things. One of the first ones, or it might have been the first, was the Danger football tryouts. How did that go?
It went really well. They had they were really excited about it because they had a lot of room to do a lot of their drills. Our field is much larger than the field that they actually play on.
Okay.
And our field is softer than their field. So they're kind of glad they could get in there and do that on our turf other than their harder and smaller turf.
What they're going to be. Have you had some other teams practice out there or inquire any other events going on?
Yeah, we've had a lot of soccer rentals.
Okay.
And on Monday we're actually having UNK come in and do a baseball clinic for all the youth.
Wow, and we've just been open just a few
Yeah.
months, so that's really great.
We were actually not, supposed to open until January 3rd, but we decided to move it up.
People are calling, huh?
Yep, people are interested, so we opened it up.
Regarding the use and people can come rent the whole facility or part of it, and tell us a little bit about what the fees are maybe, or if you just want to come in for the day, how that all works.
Sure, I'll start off with our drop-in rates.
Okay.
Children under 2 will be free. Children 2 to 4 will be $2. Youth ages 5 to 18 will be $3. Seniors 55 and up will be $3, and then the adults will be $5. And when you drop in, you can use any of the equipment that you want,
Okay.
as long as it's already not rented. And I'll go over our rental prices right now.
Okay.
Full turf, if you want to use a full turf field, it'll be $100 or $110 per hour.
Okay.
If you want to use half of it, which we have a curtain that will come down and divide 2 halves, will be $60 per hour. And then the basketball and volleyball courts, when we get them up, will be $30 for basketball and $20 for volleyball.
So are you anticipating, can you have some of the people renting and still have some drop-ins come in and use other parts of the field house? Or if it's rented, is that going to,
Nope. Well, when it's usually rented, you can actually go online on the Grand Island website and see
Okay.
our actual schedule of what's being rented and when.
Okay.
So you're able to either do that or call us, in advance and say, what's going to be open tonight, when can we come in, and things like that. So if it's if the full field is being rented, fortunately you can't use that soccer field for that hour. But if half the field is being rented, then you're able to use the other half.
or if you want to go to the batting cages, you could while that's going on, or play volleyball when the courts are done, you could do that.
Yep,
So,
yep,
okay, so there'll be
definitely.
lots of activity going on, it
Oh
sounds
yeah.
like, at one time.
Yeah. So just because something's rented out doesn't mean the whole facility
Yeah,
will
that
be
you
shut
can't.
down.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to make sure everybody understood. We've talked about a lot of things already with the field house, but I guess I wanted to visit with you now specifically about what's your role in all this. What are you doing as the recreation coordinator out there?
Right now, I'm just trying to get it all up and going. I mean, it's a long process, a lot of kinks to work out. So,
What
yeah,
have you been involved in? What are some specifics? Like, have you helped get the equipment ordered or put things up? Are you?
Yep, I've ordered just a large plethora of equipment. I've had to hire staff.
Okay.
I've had to come up with procedures and policies.
Those take a while sometimes too.
Yeah, and it's not always. They don't always work the first time. So it's an ongoing process. But I think I've gotten most of it in order so far, and looks good.
Do you have a couple part-time staff then that are helping you out, or what's
Yep.
your staffing look like?
Yep, it looks like we probably have around 7 seasonal part-time staff, which we will have 2 staff there at all times.
Okay.
And yeah.
So are you kind of help coordinating all the requests that come in too, or for rentals and things like that? Is
Yeah.
that you too?
Once before I got the staff hired, I was basically the only one taking in rentals, trying to schedule them, everything like that.
Yeah.
But now you're able to call the field house,
Good.
and the staff will be able to schedule it for you.
Good. So you can kind of oversee a lot of the other things.
Exactly.
Now I'm going to ask you a question. You came in, with the new facility when basically there was very little done. Has that been a challenge with you starting with a program that's brand new, and what are some of those challenges maybe that you've had?
Yes, it's definitely been a challenge, but it's been an exciting challenge,
Okay.
I should say. Again, everything that's going up in there, all the policies, procedures, programs are kind of developed by me or my supervisor, Todd McCoy, who's the recreation superintendent. So it's kind of my baby per se.
Yeah.
But you know, not everything that I have come up with is going to be right. So sometimes there's small trial and error there, but other than that, it's been really exciting and good so far.
So that's kind of maybe been almost a benefit to you.
Yeah.
Being able to be here from the very beginning to kind of set things up instead of challenges, but had some benefits too.
So yeah, I understand what does work, what doesn't work, why it's in place, and things like that.
What are maybe some of your goals or your vision for the field house, Jeremy? I know it's just new, but have you thought about some long-term things that you'd like to see happen?
You know, I've thought a little bit about it, but you know, right now I'm caught up in getting it going. But yeah, I thought about a few things, getting more. I want to make it more of a recreational hub for central Nebraska.
Okay,
I want everyone
great.
around to know about it, be able to, you know, not just Grand Island residents can use it, everyone around can use it, come in. I'd like to get tournaments, basketball, volleyball, soccer tournaments going in there where we get teams not only from central Nebraska, but we get more competitive teams from Omaha and Lincoln to come here to play on our turf per se.
Yeah, and it'll bring people into our community too.
Exactly.
It's a great idea. Well, if you're going to do all that, you're probably definitely going to be working from 10 to 10 every day, it sounds like.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, the final question I had for you, Jeremy, is if you could tell our viewers out there anything about the field house or entice them to come out, what types of things would you tell them?
I want to let everyone know it's not just for the youth; it's for all ages.
Okay.
I mean, I want to bring something else up. You know, you can also come in there and walk if you want to. You know, it's a multi-purpose, all-age kind of facility. If you haven't come out and seen it yet, make a trip out there. It's kind of exciting to see.
After this City Matters segment, we hope that you are more familiar with some of the new faces and new places here at the City of Grand Island. For more information about the Public Works Department or the Community Fieldhouse, I encourage you to go to the City of Grand Island website at grand-island.com. Thank you for joining us today.